McQueen.
McEwen.
McEwen.
Yep.
Brock McEwen.
I can introduce myself too if you want me to.
好了吗？
好了，开始。
Hello, I'm Sufficient Access Song, and welcome to the Green Dialogue. And today we are in the World Water Week, and here with us is Brock McEwen, Vice President of Technology Director and Water in the Water Business Group. And we know that you actually win the Stockholm Industry Water Prize this year.
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
it's
so
a great honor.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much.
I think we just wonder, can you tell us why you win this prize?
Sure. It's a lifetime contribution that our company, CH2M, has made to the advancement of water purification for potable reuse. And it's a journey that started back in the 1960s and continued in every decade up to the present and even going forward. Now, I've had previous interviews and it took me 15 minutes to tell this full story. So I can go dive into each decade that you're curious about, or I could start telling you the whole story.
Yeah, but I think we must be brief, for media it's always like that. And maybe just brief us, what's the big achievement you achieved?
Yeah, let me give you the milestones. So in the 1960s, there was a project in Lake Tahoe, California, and the lake was eutrophying because of poorly treated wastewater. At that time, nobody had deployed advanced physical chemical treatment methods for removal of phosphorus and nitrogen. CH2M won the opportunity to do that project and deployed treatment technologies for advanced removal of nutrients in a way in municipal wastewater treatment that had never been deployed before. It's really groundbreaking. The governor...
Sort of you starting with the trend of,
yes. Yep.
We say we have the silent spring.
Yeah,
time,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, that was right before Rachel Carson published her book about all these trace organic chemicals and insecticides and pesticides that were finding their way into the environment. And this advanced treatment actually included granular activated carbon as well, which was the first time granular activated carbon had been deployed on a large scale for municipal wastewater repurification. That project then really got our small company at the time a lot of notoriety nationally in the United States. And there was a similar issue in the 70s at a reservoir called the Occoquan Reservoir, which is a water supply for the Washington, D.C. area, the capital of the United States. And the reservoir was degrading due to poorly treated wastewater there as well. And our small firm at the time competed against the juggernaut engineering firms on the east coast of the United States. And primarily based upon our great contributions at Tahoe, we were selected to do a similar solution at the Upper Occoquan Sewer Authority. And the lake is now cleaned up. It's the water supply for all these, for I think 1.8 million people now. CH2M has been the engineer of record for the Upper Occoquan Service Authority for 40 years, ever since we started in the 70s, even to today. And everybody in the region now recognizes that this repurified wastewater is actually their best source of drinking water, which nobody would have guessed 40 years ago.
So I heard like in California or in your area, is it like 100% recycling of wastewater, or what kind of percentage you have?
Oh, in Upper Occoquan Service Authority, I mean, it varies by project. So it depends on what's going on with the climate. So if it's a drought, this is the main water source to the reservoir. And so during drought conditions, this wastewater effluent, repurified, makes up 80% of the inflow to the reservoir. So it is the vast majority of the water that is serving as the water source for drinking. Now, during a wet year, it's much less, but it has been as much as 80%.
And so that's what you have achieved.
Yeah, well, that's up through 1970. Of course, that's only, there's another 30 years to go before we get to today. So let me skip ahead to the 90s. We became the engineer of record working with the Singapore Public Utilities Board to launch their whole New Water program in the late 90s. And we were the engineer that helped them design and commission the first New Water demonstration project. And then based upon the success of that New Water project, we went on to do 3 full-scale New Water systems for them and with them. And that project really changed the landscape some for this potable reuse.
I think they won
they did.
this prize a few years
they
ago,
sure
right?
Did. They sure did. And they called on CH2M based upon our resume of dealing with advanced wastewater purification to come help them do the same thing in Singapore. And Singapore really went the extra mile in creating public acceptance for the notion of having your water supply derived from wastewater. And we worked with them to build a very interactive education center where you can go and find out more about water and how Mother Nature recycles water, and then how man can accelerate that repurification process to help our rapidly urbanizing world.
So you win the prize, maybe it has something to do with them also.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
you share this knowledge with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's we're a project delivery company at CH2M, so the only way, our laboratory, our work is only possible through our clients who entrust us to help them, meet their most challenging water projects. And that's what we love to do.
So you mean that you now actually working internationally?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's an interesting story, right? I mean, we were kind of an American-centric company, and then this ability and advanced water purification brought us to Singapore. And Singapore is not that far from Australia. So there was a massive drought in Australia in the early 2000s, and the government there was very interested in diversifying their water supply portfolio through potable reuse. And CH2M was fortunate again to win a couple of landmark projects in Australia at Luggage Point on the Western Corridor. And currently right now in a joint venture with TEAS, actually designing and constructing a 40 megaliter per day advanced water purification facility in Perth. So yeah, it's helped enable a worldwide tour of our capability, and it continues on. There's a huge drought going on in Sao Paulo, Brazil. My colleagues were just down in Sao Paulo 6 weeks ago, talking to them about the possibilities of potable reuse and advanced water repurification to help them with their water shortages down there.
What kind of water do you purify? It's household water or industrial water?
It's typically, we would like in this situation, since we're talking about potable reuse, to find a collection system that's dominated by domestic municipal wastewater. And if there is industrial waste in the collection system that's coming to the wastewater treatment plant, we certainly are looking for one that has an aggressive industrial pre-treatment program. So, the best pollution control is at the source. So if we can control the type of contaminants that get into the source, well, that's one less thing we have to remove downstream at the treatment plant.
You know that when people talk about this water treatment, maybe the biggest problem is they don't have enough space or the area, and they don't have a very high technology, and it costs a lot, So in this sense, what a better solution can you offer?
Well, there's no one answer for everyone. So you need a custom solution for each situation. It depends on the watershed, it depends on the level of urbanization, it depends on what kind of industry and agriculture may be and commerce may be in that watershed. And it depends on the topography and the geography and the water sources and whether they're groundwater or surface waters. So I don't know that I necessarily have one size fits all answer, but that's what makes the water business so interesting. So at CH2M, we're not trying to find one answer that solves everyone's problems. What we want to do is win projects and actually understand the watershed you live in and come up with the most holistic, environmentally sustainable approach to water management and water recycling. And that could be any number of approaches. And of course, one of them could be we have limited space, so we're very interested in finding something that's got a small footprint. So that can be a constraint that we can deal with. And in other instances, there may be plenty of land, and we might be able to put that land to use in some way to help us reclaim the water. So I'm sorry I can't give you just one definitive answer that it solves all problems, but that's the beauty of the business.
So you will deal with this issue always according to the local situation?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the proper way to do it.
Okay. Then what's your future vision or your future goal?
Well, the future goal is, in my opinion, as the technology director for water at CH2M, is it's my belief that in the 21st century, or in the 20th century, so last century, everybody was busy sub-optimizing water management. We have lots of people co-located and living in the same watershed, but they weren't talking to one another. And so they were all doing their own thing. And we got to the end of the century and we said, wow, this is not sustainable. If we worked together and had a more regional approach to managing water in the watershed, we'd have a far more sustainable system now. So I believe in the 21st century, it's really going to be the century of collaboration to improve water sustainability on a watershed basis. Not going to be easy, but nothing that's important is easy. Everything that's important takes work. So we'll have to work together, and when we work together and recognize that we share these watersheds, I think it'll be better for man and our environment, and we can pass off beautiful water resources to our children and our grandchildren.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you. 完了。